Tired of JavaScript doing crazy things like adding numbers to strings or true not being equal to true when it clearly should be? Have you ever curled up in a ball crying because null is somehow an object? Or because vanilla JavaScript makes you question your life choices? Well, dry those tears and meet TypeScript and stay calm, stay calm. It is not a brand new language that you have to learn from scratch, especially if you know JavaScript. Think of it as JavaScript on steroids, like gaining the powers of Deadpool, Iron Man, and Spider-Man combined. All jokes aside, let's dive deeper. In this video, I'll explain what TypeScript is, why you should use it, and if you stay until the end, I'll share resources to learn it fast, plus 2 books that helped me immensely. If you've seen my other videos, you know I believe books are one of the best ways, if not the best way, to learn programming. But first, a quick summary of JavaScript. It's a programming language that runs in the browser, used to make websites and web apps interactive, with animations, buttons, data submission, and all that. It is the main language for front-end developers. And like everything in this world, it is not without its flaws. But of course, programmers don't like settling for flaws. They prefer to improve, fix, and evolve constantly. So the people behind Microsoft decided to create their own JavaScript without the flaws. And that's how TypeScript was born. Well, without flaws, let's say they tried. So TypeScript is a programming language based on JavaScript. It's essentially an extension, or as some call it, a superset. This means it uses the same basic syntax as JavaScript, but adds a few extra things. What does it add? A lot of things, but the main component is in its name. The types, no, not those suspicious types hanging around your building at night, but something else. You see, JavaScript is a dynamically typed language. This means you don't need to declare variable types beforehand. You can assign different data types to a variable, perform operations with implicit conversions, or reference variables that don't even exist. Well, it is quite convenient actually, but this approach is not for everyone. This is where we find errors in unexpected places, perhaps due to oversight, the programming language itself, or even the developer. These errors only appear when the browser executes the code. Imagine catching this in production, a week after the launch. If you dislike this approach, you can always switch to a statically typed language on the back end. But on the front end, options were limited until now because with TypeScript, you can fix these errors right here and now. Let's see how it works. Remember all those jokes about JavaScript? Like adding a number to a string and getting a string? But if you multiply a number by a string, you get a number. In TypeScript, you immediately get an error in the editor stating you cannot assign a string type to a number type. I can't tell you how much suffering this would have saved me in the past. Now we can strictly define variable types like string, number, or Boolean. By specifying it with a colon, if you assign the wrong value, you get an error. You can also omit the type and just assign a value, in which case the type is determined automatically. Though this defeats the purpose of typing, but if you really need to go back to the roots and avoid this, you can use the any type. But of course, using any everywhere all the time makes using TypeScript completely pointless. The important thing is we say goodbye to comparing strings with numbers, accessing non-existent object properties, or calling methods on empty variables. But that's not all. Take a look at interfaces. If we want to create an object that must comply, but we specify incorrect fields, we get an error. What about type annotation? It's a direct way to see what data is expected in a function. And if you pass an array of numbers where strings are expected, you'll get an error. With TypeScript, there are no runtime surprises. Return types can also be specified. Plus, there are generics, access modifiers, advanced array configuration, and many complex types. If you want me to cover this in a full course or a longer video building a TypeScript project, let's aim for 1,000 likes. Now you might wonder, how does this work? How do you go from TypeScript to a language that isn't really a language, but JavaScript? Well, standard JavaScript is interpreted in the browser, which allows it to be dynamically typed. TypeScript, on the other hand, is compiled. It goes through a process before becoming JavaScript, but it doesn't turn into machine code. It becomes vanilla JavaScript. You can choose which version of JavaScript to target, allowing you to support older browsers, modern ones, or even future standards. Compilation parameters can be customized in a configuration file, typically named tsconfig.json. TypeScript also supports future features planned for JavaScript. This means you can use new JavaScript features before browsers or environments fully support them, thanks to the transpilation process. TypeScript has its downsides. For example, you have to write more code with all those types, spend time compiling, or adjust types for libraries that don't support it. Development can be a bit slower, but in return, you get a stable, secure product that saves you headaches, keeping your code fresh and powerful. Even with the overhead of a static language now, I'll share several resources I recommend to learn TypeScript faster, including some great cheat sheets. I still use all of these today. The first is the official TypeScript documentation. It's the ideal starting point for any developer. The documentation is very complete, covering everything from basics to advanced features, including a handbook perfect for daily work. If you want to use a React with TypeScript, I'll leave you a site I use often. As you know, I'm a huge React fan, so this site is very helpful. Next, a book I highly recommend by Josh, who helps maintain TypeScript and is a total pro. Learning TypeScript. Enhance your web development skills using type-safe JavaScript. After Josh's book, I recommend reading the book by Dan, a senior engineer at Google and a contributor to the TypeScript project. The book is called I'll leave all these books and links in the video description along with others I recommend. Again, I truly believe one of the best ways to learn programming is through books, something I highly suggest. If you look up both Josh and Dan, you'll see they don't have courses or YouTube channels, at least as of this video, but their background is better than most. You might say I'm being pushy, but I just care about your growth. So it's up to you whether to take this advice. Before I finish, one final question. We talked about how TypeScript works in browsers, but would it work with Node.js? I want your answer in the comments. Good luck and keep up the great work with your studies. Thanks for watching. Take care.